Hello and welcome back to your favourite man with a shiny head channel. Yes, it's the Gamer Muscle YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk about whether or not Assetto Corsa Competizione can Assetto Corsa Competizione iRacing. I went with that. It was terrible. Apologies. But, oh well, that was a mediocre pun, like the mediocre content on this channel. It's what you expect. So yeah, can Assetto Corsa Competizione, I don't think it could dethrone iRacing, but can it affect it? Will it impact it? That's what we're going to discuss in this video. Before we do, we need to set up our car, and we're going to do that by going for the aggressive default setup. We're driving the Audi here. We're going to go to the fuel. We're going to take that down a little bit. We're going to turn the front brakes and the rear brakes to 1, and that's that sorted. Too much fuel for a 15-minute race, but I need the spare fuel because the British economy is going to collapse by the end of this year, and I'm going to need that spare fuel for my generator to keep powering the sim rig so we can keep streaming. But the default setups are actually really good in ACC, especially the aggressive default. They're more than competitive. They work fine. I really appreciate that Kunos have done that. And I'm starting to see that actually in a lot of simulators. Now, Race Room as well, the default setups are great. So, anyway, to the topic on hand, we're ready, we're rolling, we're going. Australian tarmac ski slope, here we go. When ACC first came out, it was pretty obvious that no, it couldn't affect iRacing at all because it didn't run well, the physics weren't good. I mean, you touch a curb, you're dead. The ranking didn't exist. The matchmaking didn't exist. I mean, there was ranking, but you know what I mean. It wasn't like... It wasn't implemented in a way that made any sense. And it didn't have the user base. There weren't that many... You couldn't have that many cars on a server. It didn't have that many tracks to actually race on. So you know, not enough to really keep it variable. But a lot has changed, guys, since the launch of Assetto Corsa Competizione. Competizione. I'm going to get slagged off for saying the title wrong. Look, I'm not Italian. I'm an idiot British person that knows no Italian, so forgive me for butchering the name of this game repeatedly. I'll call it ACC. There you go. Everyone's happy. Yeah, so a lot has changed since launch, and in a good way. So I'd say the biggest thing, as we alluded to in our top 5 best and worst things about this simulator, for most people, the biggest thing will just be the game actually running better. I mean, it's still a heavy game. Like, you do need a mid to high-end PC to actually get relatively good performance from ACC. So I'm not saying it's a lightweight title and that things can't get better, but it now runs way better. So that if you do have a moderate PC, you should be able to hit a fairly acceptable frame rate. And crucially, if you've got loads of cars on screen or the weather changes, the frame rate actually stays relatively consistent. And it stays relatively consistent across the entirety of a track. It doesn't fluctuate and jump. So that's a huge change that means that most people that buy it can actually run it and play it, which is normally good for a video game. But another really big change is that there's the actual ranked CP races, as they call them, which happen a couple of times a day, where you have to get your safety rating up, but then you have a proper organised race that you can jump into and drive that feels like a somewhat serious race. Now, it'll be either a 45-minute race or an hour-long race at the moment. I'm sure they'll do different options later on. But, you know, it feels like a significant race. It captures that essence of iRacing that was always lacking from other simulators. That you feel like an iRacing race, though it is just, you know, it's just an online race. You kind of feel like it's a somewhat significant event. It's different from just joining on a random public server and driving, and it's different from just driving against AI. And I think as a result, that makes it a lot more compelling. It makes you a lot more likely to want to keep continuing through the race and treating it more like a real race. And if you're in the top of one of those races, you know, gets your heart going a bit, as it does in iRacing. If you're leading the field and there's a lot of cars behind you, it sort of, you know, that's part of the excitement. Battle Royale racing. And so another really big thing, and I think this is really specific to ACC, and I think this is probably one of the biggest things, that probably should really worry iRacing, and it's also just a really compelling thing in general from a sim racing perspective, is that you can legitimately have 60-car races in ACC, and it runs fine. Like, that's mental. Your average battle royale game, I mean, they say like 100, but, you know, a lot of the time it's like 50 people or so. So 60 cars racing, regardless of, like, the physics, and which we'll talk about, they've improved and everything else, but regardless of that, that's just like a really interesting thing to be involved in, having that many cars in a race. And it means that you're more likely to actually always have cars near you, and it also means it's way more exciting if you can beat 60 people in a single race. You know, you get that satisfaction that you get from Battle Royale titles. Now, as I say, the physics have also improved in ACC since launch. You can actually attack curbs properly. And relative to iRacing, the tyre model in ACC is just literally on another level to iRacing. Like, you can really overdrive and you can really badly drive in ACC, whereas in iRacing you can drive badly, but you can't generally drive badly in a way that doesn't cause you to just crash straight away. ACC allows you to drive badly in a way that's costly to tyre wear and lap time, and I think that is a huge thing. It makes ACC a lot more forgiving than iRacing, and I think for longer racing makes it a lot more enjoyable, because you're far less likely to just accidentally bin the car due to, like, you going that fraction over the limit, which often happens in iRacing. Unless iRacing is about staying under the limit, as close to the limit as possible, but under it. Whereas ACC is more about pushing to the limit and trying to keep it on the limit. Now, I personally, as you guys know, I say it every video, I do find the force feedback very hard in ACC to know when I'm on the limit and how to keep it on the limit. But to be honest, I also find that exactly the same in iRacing. It's got very similar, the nature of the force feedback, though the force feedback's different, the nature of it is quite similar to iRacing. So that's kind of like a moot point when looking at how ACC compares to iRacing. This bump here is mental. I mean, look at the speed we're going at here. Watch out. Unsettled the car. Jesus Christ. And we've unsettled the car in front. Now we're just using him as a brake there. That's fine. It's all right. It's an Aston Martin. Can dent that a little bit. It's fine. It's a tank. So, yeah, just like the forgiving nature of the physics, I think make ACC just way less frustrating than iRacing and way more accommodating. Now, another absolutely huge aspect of ACC, which I think makes it encroach on iRacing, is just the cost. The cost of the simulator. iRacing, you're having to pay a monthly subscription, and then you're having to buy tracks and a car. So just assume that you're looking to get into iRacing somewhat properly. Even if you, let's say you're not doing GT3 racing in iRacing, but you know, you want to race one of the most busy series, or one of those series that tends to have the best participation and racecraft, which I think is probably the Skip Barber race series. To race that fully, if you're just doing that, nothing else, you're going to need to spend about, I think it's about, let's say you're taking advantage of some offers and stuff as well. Let's say it's £70 for your yearly subscription. Let's say it's £60 for your yearly subscription. Then you need to spend 12 quid for the car, and then you need to spend another, I think it's about £100 for the tracks that will be in that. So basically you're talking about, let's say let's be kind and say it's 180 to 200 pounds, which is probably more than that, but let's say it's 200 quid, and that's for just 1 year of just doing the Skip Barber. You know, and if you want to do other stuff, it's going to add up, and generally you probably end up spending about 350 quid, and then you probably spend about £60 a year, £50 a year onwards. Whereas Assetto Corsa Competizione, it's like £35 now. I think it's £35, and you get that's including DLC, because you can buy ACC on sale now quite often. Jesus, side by side through there. let's say ACC with the last DLC is, let's say it costs 50 quid. For that 50 quid, you're getting the laser scan tracks, which are, and they're arguably, well, not even arguably, they're objectively better quality laser scan tracks than in iRacing. I'm not sure the intricate absolute road surface details, but I know for sure that the stuff like the curbing and the actual overall track fidelity, the environment details, ACC is literally leading the way. There's nothing else like it on the market at this point in time in terms of the track graphics and fidelity. Then on top of the actual tracks that you've got there, you also have the fact that it's got the day-night, full day-night that's fully dynamic, and the fully dynamic weather. And I have to say, you know, we've been playing a lot of ACC recently. I have to say, the rain... there's a wall. There's another wall. 360 no-scope, just warming up all four wheels. Keep going. Jesus. I think I hit a kangaroo there, guys. An invisible kangaroo. That will explain that. But yeah, the rain in ACC is incredible. The way the track gets damp and dries out, especially if you put it on accelerated time, and you then have it going from morning to midday with the weather, it looks unbelievable. We were doing it yesterday in a live stream, and I was just absolutely mind blown by the fidelity of the road surface changing, and the way you could clearly see where the puddles were and the drying line and the reflection of the puddles and the puddle bits of track versus the wet bits of track versus the more dry bits of track, and that all being dynamic and the sound effects and everything. Absolutely incredible. All for, let's say, 45, 50 quid. Then you have the audio in ACC, which is miles better than iRacing audio. So again, it's so let's just recap a bit here. You buy ACC, you can do the online CP races. Granted, it is just GT3, so if you want to drive other cars, you're out of luck. But if you want to do GT3 racing, which is a large number of people that play in iRacing, and a lot of people that are doing iRacing, they're basically picking, as I say, I drive the Skip Barber particularly, but if you look at the series that are popular in iRacing, it's because they're just, they're approachable general cars. So if that's why a lot of people drive the MX-5, it's why a lot of people drive the Skip Barber, it's why a lot of people drive GT cars in iRacing. They're just a popular car for close racing. So you've got GT3 cars in ACC, and you've got the somewhat significant CP races there. You've got the ginormous grids, so you feel like you're part of something insane. And it's 50 quid, so it's if you're not someone that's been playing iRacing a lot and you've really got into iRacing, and your general consumer's perspective, and someone says, okay, do you want to spend 350 quid or 250 quid? Or do you want to spend 50 quid? And you look at the differences, I think it actually gets really hard from a general consumer, someone that's getting into sim racing's perspective, to really justify something like iRacing. And I also think iRacers, that there's a lot of iRacers, I think, that are sort of on the fence and that are just racing Skip Barber, and really in some ways they're sort of looking for something else, and they're kind of like, well, I really don't want to. I knew that's why I cringed there. There we go, Australian 360 no-scope entry. They really don't want to they don't want to renew their subscription. They're looking for something else, and I think ACC can actually really scratch that itch for them. So I have to say, it is looking a bit. It's looking a little bit precarious for the old iRacing, a little bit. Now, iRacing does beat out ACC when it comes to VR performance, variety. It's the only sim with oval racing, proper online oval racing. If you've already got all the content and everything, you know, that pricing is reduced because you've already spent the money. And, you know, if you're into a given simulator, it's always really hard to learn new simulators. So, you know, iRacing is always going to be around, and I think there's always going to be ways to play it. I'm always going to be jumping into the Skip Barber. I really do enjoy racing the Skip Barber. And as a bold man, I'm often skipping the Barber, so it all makes sense. Yeah, so, you know, if you're watching this, you might be thinking, oh, you know, he's doing the whole death to one sim, only one true sim religion. Which, you know, if we're doing that, let's be honest, it's either Automobilista or Assetto Corsa. but you know, realistically, every sim always there's different features in all the sims, and there's different reasons to play all the simulators. Yeah, and there's, you know, there's reasons to play like Forza, there's reasons to play GT Sport. They all have something to offer, and they can all be really, really entertaining. So I'm not advocating death penalty to all simulators apart from one specific one, to be clear, before I get shouted at for that. But what I am saying is I do think that ACC, especially recently, is going to actually start having an impact on iRacing. And, woo! Let's not 360 no-scope entry. There's our skid marks on the floor from last time. Yeah, so it's really interesting also to see how ACC is... Kunos just keep hammering away. They keep chiseling away. And you can really see, if you look at the user numbers online for ACC, they've really jumped in the last 2 months as well. So even when it comes to public servers, there's more and more users playing it. And when it comes to live streaming, it's very noticeable when you're a live streamer. You see how many people are watching your live streams and how much engagement there is from game to game and what title you're playing. And that gives you a really good idea of how popular a given game is, because, you know, if a game's really popular, you tend to just innately get more views. Now, you watch live streamers playing ACC and see their view counts versus when they play other titles. Especially live streamers that don't just play one title. So, you know, like Jardier, Abgafaran, you know, thinking like streamers that just play multiple titles. You look at their view numbers when they're playing ACC and look at how many more viewers they actually get. It really shows you that ACC's got a lot of traction, and it's just really interesting to see a sim that was effectively dead. No, it wasn't dead, but it was like the knight from Monty Python. It's merely a flesh wound. After like no arms, no legs, floundering around on the floor, but it kept fighting. It kept fighting. It bit away at the ankles, and it's like a phoenix from the flames. It's come back, and it's come back stronger. And I'm putting my chips on the table, guys. I think when it comes to esports. And here's a bombshell for you. Get ready for this bombshell. When it comes to esports and when it comes to ACC being a cross-platform game, and it's coming out on the next-gen games consoles, mark my words, if they do cross-play as well, even if they don't, but if they do cross-play and it's on the next-gen consoles and on PC and as an esports platform, this is like... You know, it really does have potential to be the sim in many ways. So watch out for it, guys. So yeah, iRacing. I think I would be. I mean, I wouldn't be worried if I was iRacing. They've got a user base, but I think ACC will encroach quite heavily on iRacing. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you think I'm being massively controversial or surprisingly sensible. No, never sensible from this channel. But yeah, if subscribe and like and all that business. Click the like button, subscribe. I just said it twice, so I mean that means unsubscribe. Click the dislike button, unsubscribe, format your C drives, and pretend YouTube doesn't exist. Until the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Happy tea drinking. Goodbye.